Hey, welcome back. I'm here with Francesca from First Responder Family Collective. Hi, Francesca. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So, I'm just going to let you roll and you're going to tell me all about yourself.
All right, so I am a CAL FIRE spouse. This is my 15th fire season. My husband's been with the department for almost 25 years now, so he started pretty young. So we've kind of done all the things and seen all the different things. And I have two little ones. I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I'm a teacher. And I created this resource hub called the First Responder Family Collective. It's a mouthful, but there are some great resources. And it was really the idea is to create a place where first responder families can find resources, whether that's mental health resources, wellness resources, books and podcasts, just things that I wish I had 15 years ago when I first started this journey, this adventure of fire life.
Yeah, so you have two kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're a teacher, so that means that you work and you take care of kids and your husband goes on strike teams still?
Yes, so he is CAL FIRE Captain Schedule B, so all things wildland. We're coming off a 24-day strike team, so this is real time, and yeah, just trying to figure it out, just day by day.
So, let's go back. How many years ago? 15 years ago would be after it went from CDF to CAL FIRE, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because 17 years ago, I think, is when that happened. Because my husband
Yeah,
was just coming on with the department and they were changing all the logos and the shirts were different. And
yeah.
like, yeah. So my husband worked for CDF as a teenager. So he was 18 when he went into fire service. He was a
Mm-hmm.
seasonal for a couple of seasons. And then he got out of it for a little while. And then when we got married again, he went back to it again. So I married a Baptist minister, not a CAL FIRE firefighter.
You're like, I didn't know I was signing up for this.
Like, I didn't know I was signing up for this, right? And I didn't know what I was signing up for, right? Like, that's nobody knows.
Oh, yeah, so it sounds very similar. So my husband, same thing, like started at 18. And when we met, he was already in it. So I think that's a big, difference. I didn't have to go through the academy. He was already an engineer when we met. And so I kind of saw, when we were dating, like, okay, he's gone part of the week. And, during certain months, he's gone for a couple weeks. And so I kind of knew early on, like, what that looked like. And definitely I was like, do I want to do this? Is this a lifestyle that I want? Um, and, obviously I'm still here. So I chose yes. But yeah, so he's been around for a long time and kind of done everything. So Helitech, right now he's running crews. We did the inmate side, the Schedule A side, but really he keeps going back to wildland, and that seems to be like that's his passion. And with that, comes these extended deployments and different dynamics in our family life.
So, since he's been on Schedule A, can you explain the difference?
Yeah. So Schedule A is really what you think of when you think of, traditional firefighting, right? They're at a local or city firehouse. They're typically running more medical and vehicle accidents. And CAL FIRE does that as well. And I think, sometimes people just assume that CAL FIRE is just wildland, but it's definitely, there's so many aspects within the department. And so the A side is really like medical vehicle accidents, and then structure fires, whether that's a house or vehicle fire or building. And then they do some wildland suppression, but then the B side is really, they are, the front line of these large incidences. And when you're on the B side, you are, getting deployed for extended time. And often that end date is unknown. And I think people have a misconception that, like, oh, it's just 2 weeks, because there are a lot of city departments where they have this cutoff of, if you go out of county and go help on an incident, it's a 2-week or 14-day max. with Cal Fire, now they're trying to adhere to this 21-day rule, trying being the operative word. Like I said, we just came off 24 days. There's been a lot of long strike teams that we've experienced. The very first shift he went back after we had our first child was a 35-day strike team. And I had a 6-week-old. And I was like, okay, like I got to figure it out. Now, not to say it was, the other side is the beauty of a department like this. He did have a lot of FMLA time and was able to take almost 6 weeks off when we first had our daughter. But man, it literally was like that very first shift back and he was gone. And so, yeah.
Wow. That's like so similar to my newborn story. Like he was off 6 weeks and then lightning fires like 30 days. And
Bye.
to his credit, like he was working as a comm op at that time, and that's a 12-hour shift. So a lot of people don't know that. Like he went back to Cal Fire as a comm op, and that is a 12-hour shift. So after his 12 hours, he was coming home, but then he was working night shifts. So he's like, yeah. So he's trying to stay awake at night on his days off, right? Like it was crazy. It was a crazy time. So he was working night shift. So he was coming home. He was sleeping at home and all the things. So it wasn't like 30 days straight of me not seeing my husband's face, but it was 30 days of him physically going to work all day long and then sleeping all night and doing it over again, rinse and repeat. So that's tough.
Yeah, but it sometimes almost is harder if they're in that situation where they're home and they're still working or trying to rest or they're on call versus like out of sight, out of mind. They get to focus, you get to focus. Yeah, I feel like that also almost makes it a little more challenging of like them being home and being on in a situation like that.
Yeah, and it could make it more challenging. But then I remember the first strike team he ever went on. So he was a comm op for 8 years. So I had him home. So he was crazy. My husband is absolutely crazy. He's like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'll be fine. So he would go, his shift was night shift. So he worked from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And we were an hour from the comm center. So he would drive home. He'd sleep until noon. So he'd sleep from 8 to noon, and then he'd be up with my kids.
Whew, that's a lot.
Rinse and repeat. Like he might take a quick nap after dinner, and then he'd go to work.
Oof.
Rinse and repeat. We did that for 8 years. So I was accustomed to my husband coming home and helping with the kids and all these things, and I was working full time. So imagine my shock when he goes to COA for the first time, and we're now in academy. And I have my youngest was 5.
Mm.
So he's been accustomed to dad being home every night or every day, being able to go to the soccer practice, being able to go to the soccer games, being able to do all of these things. And now all of a sudden, never mind. No, he's not.
Yeah, and it's so hard with the little ones. And in our house, my husband started coming home because he's working at a fire center and he can come home because it's within an hour response time. And so since April, he's been home every night. And same thing, I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and it's like, cool, dad's coming home. So this last strike team just rocked them. And they're now at ages where they can verbalize. They're like, okay, well, where is he? Like, why isn't he coming home? And I think it's hard enough sometimes for us to manage our own emotions and expectations and understanding of, the sacrifices for everybody, but then you add kids into it and it like adds just a whole nother element.
Yeah.
And having to try and explain, what's going on to them and managing their feelings and validating them, which is why I wrote a book. I wrote a book just about this.
You did write a book, and it's fabulous. I actually have a copy of it, and I don't even have little kids.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But this was the whole this is like my little passion project, and exactly for this reason. It's called Sharing My First Responder, and it's all about the big feelings that come from sharing our loved one who, obviously in this case is a firefighter, because it's hard and it's hard to articulate those words, especially in, child friendly language, to help them understand their emotions and what that might look like. And it's okay. And like, here's what we can do in the meantime.
I think it's hard as adults to sometimes even articulate how we feel. Like, what am I feeling? Why do I feel that way? Like, can you imagine being a 5-year-old and dad's all of a sudden not home for 30 days in a row? How? Like, as a 5-year-old, I can't even imagine that. Like,
No, and it's hard too because especially with firefighters, right? Like so many little kids idolize and look up to firefighters. And
mhm.
we're waving at the fire trucks and they're coming to the school to, give presentations and they're really beloved community members as they should be, of course. But I think sometimes that then makes it even more challenging, right? If everyone is telling you at 5, oh my God, that's so cool. Your dad's a firefighter. You go on the fire truck and they're trying to understand, yeah, but I haven't seen him in, a couple days or a couple weeks. And just validating that like two things can be true at the same time, right? Like it can still be hard and awesome at the same time.
Yeah. So my kids just stopped telling people that their dad was a firefighter altogether until they got into high school. Now they'll tell people, but like when they were in elementary school, they're like, we just don't want to hear it. Like,
Yeah.
just not going to tell them, because oh my gosh, your dad works for Cal Fire. Oh, is he on that fire that's like going right now? Is he going to be okay? Like, those are not questions that a 5-year-old can process, nor can they answer. And it was bad. It was hard for them. And so they just like, no, just not going to tell anybody.
Yeah. I think even now, like even as adults, it's hard. Like, people ask me all the time, it's like the number one favorite question, like, when is he going to be home? And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm having feelings about that. And, yeah, it's still hard and challenging. And I think, as time goes on and I look back at, myself 15 years ago, I think that it's not that the job necessarily gets easier. I think that me as an individual, I've become more accustomed and figured out what support I need and what's going to make it so that I can, stay level headed and grounded and then show up for my kids that way. But I don't think the job necessarily gets easier. I think it shifts. And, depending on the time of year, depending on what rank your partner is, depending on all sorts of factors, like it just shifts. I don't think it gets necessarily easier. I think you get more equipped with how to show up.
Well, and I think that we figure out how to communicate with our spouse better. I think
Mhm.
that 5 years ago, even, I would not have had the conversation. I think, well, off mic, we were talking about how my husband is in a kind of a weird place in his career where he's trying to figure out what's next.
Mhm.
Going to stay a battalion chief for the foreseeable future and just retire at this rank, or am I going to, try to promote? And if I do that, like, what does it look like? And one of the things that he really wants to do is work in headquarters in Sacramento. And he was talking with one of the departments and they were like, okay, well, it's 80% travel, 90% travel. And he's like, okay, what does that mean? And they're like, well, you will travel 5 days a week and sometimes even more than that. And I just looked at him and went, what do you mean?
Yeah. What does that look like?
What does that look like? Yeah, does that fit into our family life? And do you want to be gone that often? And how often would you be bringing your phone? And how many times a day would you be taking phone calls when you are home? And all of these things. And I don't think that those are questions I would be feeling confident in asking even 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Because I think we've been made to feel that if we ask questions or question the service in general, that we're not doing something right as the spouse, that we're failing as the spouse. That, at least that's the expectation that I
Mhm.
felt was being put on me. Like, if you're asking these questions, you're not supportive.
Yeah, I think totally. I think there's a fine line of like really having that foundation of communication between you and your spouse and also, respecting the job and the department and like, it's figuring out, I think, first off, your values as a couple and if you're parents and what that looks like and figuring out what's going to be the best for your family. And obviously, there's different seasons, right? Your kids are older and teenagers. That's a different season than I'm in with young kids versus somebody who like just had a brand new baby, or maybe they're not even, no children yet, which at that point, my husband and I were traveling all over. He got a job, up in Nevada, Nevada County. And so he like went up there and then we were down in Monterey County and it's different, all the different seasons. But yeah, me in the beginning, I was very cautious of how I approached the subject because I felt like the job came first versus now 15 years later, the family comes first. And how does that, whatever position he takes or, assignment that he takes, how is that going to affect our family and how are we going to come together as a team to best, move forward in that? And okay, this last strike team, he's going out of county. There were conversations from him being like, what do you need, to make your life easier the next couple of weeks? If you need to, get the babysitter, get the babysitter. If you need to order food, do things that are going to help you thrive. And then I reciprocate that, like, okay, what do you need? How are you going to be supporting yourself during these deployments? Because he's a little older now and not used to sleeping on the ground as much, and he's been used to being at home the last couple months. And so I think having that solid communication is so important, and I think that's going to look different for everybody. But you got to get comfortable with the discomfort and like have those uncomfortable conversations, because otherwise you keep that in or your partner keeps it in, and that then eventually starts stacking up and will boil over at some point, and that's not going to be good for anybody.
No, it's not going to be good for anybody. And I believe that is truly the divorce problem in the fire service, right? We want to blame it on the department. We want to blame it on the chief, whatever, right? We want to blame it on something. But it comes down to the fact that you just didn't do the maintenance, right? We talk about the PPE, like we got to put on the gear, right? Well, you have to do the same thing in your marriage. You have
Totally.
to do the same thing in a relationship. And if we're not, it's not us against each other. It's not us against the department. It's us trying to figure out how to navigate this already difficult situation that we're in because we love the job and we love our spouse.
Yep.
And the sooner we get okay with that, the better we feel about the job. That's
100%.
how I feel.
And now again, there's so many resources that if people are willing to like put in the effort and willing to try, there are so many amazing resources now that weren't there. I think my husband and I could have benefited, from some more support early on in the career versus what there is now. And obviously within the departments, there's a lot of programs, but I think outside now, people are talking about it more, and mental health within the fire and first responder world more, that there are so many great resources if you're willing to give it a try.
Yeah, and there's probably somebody that's gone through the same thing you're going through right now, and they probably have an amazing amount of advice for you. And it may not, I feel like there's a lot of people talking about all the things they've learned, and we can take whatever we want from those conversations and apply them if they work for us. Like one of my biggest things is I hate to vacuum and I hate laundry. So I bought a RoboVac, like,
Yeah.
right?
Work smarter, not harder, and I think too, for me, so I was a teacher, and then when I had kids, I took time off work, and now I work a little part-time. But there was this expectation, I think, that if I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom, I need to like do all the things because I'm not working. And then having a partner who's gone a lot, I put extra pressure on myself. And for what? Like, no one's coming over. The house doesn't need to be clean. Like, I don't have to do all the things. And once I like gave myself grace to be like, no, order the food, hire the cleaning lady if you can, hire the babysitter if you can. And again, that's not available for everybody. And for me in the beginning, that was really hard. And it's still hard for me to like ask for help because I become so independent and hypervigilant over these years that I'm trying to more. And when I do, man, is it a game changer and like a win for everybody. And if you can like figure out how to do that and ask for help or seek out help or support where you can, try it. See if it works. Might be better.
Yeah, and I love the advice, control the controllables. You can control whether you cook dinner tonight or not. You're not going to control if they're going to come home.
No. I like to control sometimes by just doing a lot of cleaning. Like that's my
Yes.
Sometimes I'll do some rearranging. Again, very independent. Yeah, where like he'll come home and he's like, "Why is the bed moved?" I'm like, "Oh, I just trying this out because you got to put my anxiety somewhere and my control somewhere. So we're just gonna do it this way."
That's right. Yep. So I love that. So yeah, the control for me comes in I can cook dinner or I don't have to, right? Like I can physically vacuum the floor or I can buy a vacuum that does it for me.
Yeah.
I don't need to do laundry because I have enough clothes that's going to make it through the week. So if it waits, it waits. So yeah, control the controllables. You have control over yourself and your stuff, and you know you can't help if they're going to be out on a strike team for the next 30 days. Like there's nobody's changing that for you.
No. And I think that leads into like remembering that you're the only one that can like control your own happiness, and like waiting for somebody to come back, or even if it's just a 24, 48-hour shift and like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that because I want them to be with me. When you can figure out that like you got to do what's going to make you feel whole and happy and grounded, that's so important. And I think for me that was such a game changer. Like during COVID, I got really into meditating and journaling and like my wellness routine, because that for me kept me grounded, and it allowed me to like find my inner peace, again, my control
Mhm.
over all the uncontrollables. And I think that's been super helpful. And maybe it's not meditating for you, maybe it's, making sure that every morning you're taking your coffee outside and you're grounding on the earth, or maybe it's, calling that one girlfriend once a week to like catch up and just do something for you, because you're the only one who is going to find your happiness. It's not going to be anybody else.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you said like when once you get that, like it just clicks. Um, so for the first time ever last night, I didn't feel guilty because we went and did something like as a family event without my husband. So my mother's birthday is on Saturday and they wanted to do dinner on Wednesday because there was some live music happening at the restaurant that she wanted to go to. And so my stepdad was like, we need to plan a surprise. We're all going to show up. A year ago, 2 years ago, I'm like, well, can we postpone it so Cameron can be there too? And last night I went and didn't feel an ounce of guilt.
Yeah.
Like we planned the thing, we went and did the thing, the boys were all there, and it was fantastic. And I felt so good about it. And I got to call him afterwards and say, this was so much fun. I really wish you had been here, but I'm glad I went.
Yeah,
Like,
and I think that's so important too, especially if you like have young kids at home and it's hard, getting kids out of the house, and maybe you don't want to go take them to the aquarium, or you don't want to take them to a birthday party. But man, just try and see how it goes. You're a lot more capable than you
you think,
realize.
yeah.
And the guilt is interesting. I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Becky and Jay Shetty, and it was talking about guilt and how there's mom guilt, or guilt if your partner's not there and you're doing something. And there's all this labeling over this word guilt. And they were talking about how um, guilt is a feeling that happens when you are out of alignment with your values. And so, if you're doing something that is important to you and part of your value system, like in your case, spending time with your mother on her birthday, then that's not guilt. You are, your partner not being there is not necessarily a feeling of guilt, versus like your that's in your alignment. And so the fact that you did that and you felt good about that, that is reaffirming like, yes, this is part of my value system and my alignment to spend time with people I love. I wish my partner could be there,
Mhm.
and I'm sure they wish they could be there too, but man, I'm glad I made that choice and didn't let the guilt, defer me to another date or not to do it.
Well, and he didn't allow himself to feel left out either. He's like, that's your mom. It's her birthday. You should go.
Hmm.
I will see her when I get home. Like,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And I think that early on in our marriage, that was really miscommunicated. And I think that that's kind of where we as a couple evolved over time. Like things started to get easier when we acknowledged that we both have things that we value and things that we want to do, and we should do them. Like that's it. That's the
Yeah.
whole thing. I don't need to wait around for him to come home because God knows when that's going to be able to have a life,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
Right.
And the same goes for them too. Like, I think when they come home, let them, again, figure out what works for you as a family, but like let them do their hobbies and their things. Like my husband loves to surf, and, you know, he is also wants to be very present with the kids when he's home because again, he feels like he's missed out. But I'm like, it's okay, go do your thing so that you feel whole and then rejoin the family when you feel ready and like take, that transition time back can be a little tricky. And I think it's important for everybody to like figure out what's going to help them, ease into that.
So where should we end it? Like, I feel like this is like,
Do you want to circle back to the book where that
yes,
came
let's
from?
circle back to the book. So
Okay.
you wrote this book.
I wrote a book.
Um,
Yeah, it's called Sharing My First Responder. And I was fortunate enough to find Destiny Morris, who I know you know as well from On Being Resilient. And at the time, this is probably like 4 years ago now, she was doing these spouse and partner support groups. And so I was like, cool, I'm going to try that. And it was wonderful. And she's a wealth of knowledge. And when we were doing the groups, just listening to everybody's different experiences is so validating. And it made me start reflecting on, man, if we as partners are feeling all these big feelings and emotions and not knowing where to put them, how are our kids feeling? And at that time, I had a brand new baby at home and a 3-year-old. And I'm a teacher. So I was like, great, we need books and resources. And so I started looking for resources to kind of support my own kids. And there are great books out there, but a lot of them are my dad's a firefighter. He drives a fire truck. My dad's a police officer. He drives a police truck. And there's not a lot that go into emotions or a little bit deeper. And so I was like, okay, well, I got some time. I'm going to try to write a book. And so I, used my education background and created this story that I wanted to be relatable to kids, in the elementary school age, all about what first responders do and then feelings that come when we have to share our first responders, what those look like, and then ways to cope with them. And it's been really rewarding to kind of see where the book has gone and the families that have received the book and hearing the feedback from the kids and the parents. It's been a really fun project. And I get just sent out a bunch to some guys from the strike team my husband was just with. And it's really fun to kind of see where this is landing and how it's resonating with people.
well, I will tell you that I made my teenagers read it, and they said they wished that that was something that they had been read when they were little. They said that would have been so helpful. And so I think, like, God, I wish I had this book. Like, it's amazing. I literally have it on my shelf. Like, it's in,
Yay.
I have like a little children's section on our bookcase, and it's in the children's section because I'm just like, this is
Yay.
a fantastic book. Like,
Thank you.
it's great. So highly recommend y'all read it.
Thank you.
And if you have little kids, especially, like, make it a bedtime story. Like, it's really great. Um, and I think we're gonna give one away to a lucky listener.
Yeah.
So, in the
Get
show
your own
notes, there'll
copy.
be, yes, in the show notes there'll be instructions on how you can grab one of these books maybe for free. Um, so yeah, this has been amazing. This is a great conversation. It's so nice to talk to people that feel the same way about the fire service and that have had similar experiences, because I think that all of our experiences are really similar. Um, and kind of put the positive spin on it. I feel like a lot of people feel like a lot of things are negative, but they're not. Like, some things are by design negative. Like, the schedule is a schedule, it's negative. Like, there's nothing you're going to do to change the negativity of the schedule, but we can change the way we feel about it. And I think that's the biggest part for me.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think the narrative tends to go to the negative, and there are so many positive and advantages in this lifestyle. And like, the beauty of my husband being able to stay home for 6 weeks when we had our kids, being able to take, blocks of time off and getting to travel, being able to come home and, sometimes take the work with him, but oftentimes not. And being able to like really be present at home is a wonderful thing. And then, there's a lot of perks towards the end of the career with the retirement. And, I think there's a lot of sacrifice from everybody when you're in it. But once you find a good balance for your family and figure out the communication, you really can make it work for you and, take the good with the bad. But I do think a lot of the good outweighs the bad, you
Yes,
know?
I would agree with that. I feel like
Yeah,
we thought things would get better if we jumped to a different department, and my husband did not like the structure of that and ended up back with Cal Fire.
mhm,
And I think there are some definite things that could change, but I don't know that it would change anything for us as a family.
totally,
And I think that once you realize that it's okay to feel your feelings and you realize that you're not going to do anything to change it, and then you try to figure out how your family can e- exist within it, then it's a total game changer.
totally. And again, I think that takes a little time, again.
It takes a lot of time. I mean, we were just talking about how for the
Yeah,
first time ever in 17 years, I didn't feel guilty about going to my mom's birthday party
totally.
without my husband. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, and it was a really interesting feeling too, because it's like, wait, was I supposed to have feelings about that? What just
yeah,
happened here?
yeah,
And so it does get better, but it's not because something changes in the things that we can't control. It's in the things that we can control.
totally. And again, I think now look at us having conversations like this. This didn't exist even 10 years ago, let alone, 15 years ago. And I think now people who are getting into it, whether it's, your partner is now going into the academy or you're just starting out, there are so many more resources and tools that you have access to now that are going to help that transition and help you get to where we are a lot sooner.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trial and error, and like I'm still trying to figure it out. And but
But it's okay to talk about it. That's
totally,
the
like
thing.
share the
Yeah.
experiences and be like, yeah, even 15 years later, a strike team is still difficult, and
Yeah.
that's okay. And it doesn't mean that you know, love your partner any less or don't like their department or whatever. It's okay for it to be difficult and you still admire their job and their passion and them. And you start figuring out what works for you and your family.
Exactly. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think we're going to
Mhm.
end it on that very high note.
Yay.
It's been a pleasure. Why
Thank
don't
you,
you tell
Chelsea.
people? Yeah. So why don't you tell people how they can find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's the First Responder Family Collective. And then there's a link there for the book, Sharing My First Responder. It's also on Amazon now. And yeah, come say hi, check it out.